Previously on Wine Wars.
Oh! Whoa! You okay? Did you break anything?
No, I think it all worked out.
All right.
Is there any wine in your phone?
Wine Wars, the show with four friends who love three things: wine and Star Wars.
Welcome to Wine Wars. You're joining the four of us as we sniff, sip, and talk about wine live from our basement here in Madison, Wisconsin. I'm your excellent host and spectator, and with me as always are Amy. Hello. Scott.
Hi.
And Jason.
Hello.
So this is our inaugural episode of Wine Wars.
Yay.
So we thought we'd take this episode to just tell you a little bit more about us and why it is that we're starting a podcast and our very few qualifications for doing so. We thought you might be interested. And so maybe we'll just start by having each of us tell you a little bit about ourselves so you know who you're talking to. Okay, I'll start. I'm Anne. I'm here in Madison, Wisconsin, but I've lived everywhere. I most recently came from Anchorage, Alaska, but I've been here now 20 years. I came to attend the University of Wisconsin and had every intention of leaving until I met the lovely Jason, my very last month of college.
Ooh.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah, you'll hear more from him and question that whole decision later. But now we've been, here for, 16 years since that fateful day.
That's right.
And I have a career I love in environmental nonprofit work. And I think probably the most important thing is Theodore, our golden doodle, who I'm sure you'll hear breathing and talking in the background sometimes. I think that's me. I think if you know Theo, then you sort of know what I have going on.
Okay. Well, my name is Scott. 31 years of age. We'll turn 32 this year. 10 years
Rub it in.
Yep. 10 years of drinking under my belt, legally. So I live in Madison, Wisconsin as well. I've lived here for about 8 years. Grew up just east of here. Born in Providence, Rhode Island, East Coast. So I have an odd social that no one understands when I ever give it to them. But I kind of grew up in the Midwest. Went to school in Minneapolis for music. That's kind of my passion in the arts is music, and Jason and I play in a band, which I'm sure will bore you to death with details about later. Mm-hmm. But that's how kind of we met, and in the last few years grown to become friends, and then met Amy here, which you'll learn about a little bit later, more details. So I'm a pretty straightforward guy. I don't have a fancy job like Anne, but
Fancy nonprofit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty ritzy.
Toad's fancy.
So that's me. Any questions? Do you guys have any questions for me?
Where's your East Coasty accent?
Yeah.
I moved out of there, pretty young. My family moved a whole bunch. So I've lived here since I was 7.
You don't have the Wisconsin accent either so
No.
much.
No, don't you know? So
Yeah.
so that's me.
Speaking of, let's go to Kenosha.
Oh, yeah. I'm from Kenosha. This is Jason. You're here. Was that Irish? What did I use
Irish,
there?
yeah.
What happened?
Yeah.
Irish Uber.
My name is Jason Sheridan, and I am 38 years of age.
Oh,
That's not true. Actually, I'm 37 years of age someday. I hope to be
As
38.
you're rounding up.
Good strategy. I, too, have an odd social. I was born in Vermont. That's right.
Good cheese.
Bennington, Vermont. And so, yeah, I'm in the music business. And, that's about it about me. Yeah.
Yeah, not much else about you.
No, I'm from Kenosha.
Enough said.
Yeah.
Tenuta! What?
If you ever have the means, Tenutas.
Tenutes.
I'm Amy Canaday. I met Scott when he was
25.
Yep.
Wow.
I robbed the cradle a bit. I was living out in Portland, Oregon at the time, and I too have moved all over the country and traveled abroad. And then I met this guy and was trying to get him to come out to the West Coast. He said, I'd love to, but I'm in a band. It's really hard to get a whole band to uproot.
Yeah, you guys wouldn't have
So-
wanted to move to Portland, would you?
Oh my god.
Probably.
In an instant.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Oh, well, now I find out. Now that I've moved here with the 3 dogs, and I'm a corgi mom, and now we are corgi parents together.
Mm-hmm. We have
Going on 6 years.
Quirky's the oldest.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And Charlie is her dog husband, and then together they have Harry.
Well, they're not legally married, so they're kind of living in sin.
They have a domestic partnership,
Oh, okay.
so it's cool.
Good.
Is that on paper?
It doesn't have as many benefits, but it's at least recognized
It's something.
in most states.
It's making progress. So.
Well, okay, so then that's the whole deal, and then Scott and Jason met each other.
Yeah,
Like-
so just local bands we were gigging together. So Jason he founded the band
Bascom Hill.
How many years ago?
Bascom Hill became a thing in like 2000, I think. Ish.
So 15 years.
Yeah.
Wow. So yeah, I was playing in a bunch of local bands throughout southern Wisconsin, and we just had gigs set up together. Usually us opening for you guys, and then I put a job application in at the. Bless you.
Bless.
She's allergic to great storytelling.
Wonderful anecdotes.
Yep. Put a job in at the local music shop, Ward Brought Music, and after my interview, I walk out and I'm like, Jason, you work here? And he's like, yeah, I work here. And so supposedly he put a good word in for me.
I did. I did.
And then
I walked right into HR and I said, we got this kid we gotta hire.
Wait, okay, so what year was that?
2006-ish?
Whoa.
Okay, and then when did you meet your lovely Amy and get all weird about your love for her?
So we met when I was 25, so that would have been
2008.
Oh yeah, that makes sense because you had that long distance thing, and then you moved out here
Yep,
just as we were getting married. So
that's right.
I think you guys got engaged the same year that we met.
yeah, that sounds right. So then I was like, Scott and Jason are good buddies, but now we've got the whole potential couple friend thing, and that can go south fast.
It feels like it is like right now.
Yeah.
Oh.
It felt good from day one. I remember coming over to the house, and Anne was still getting ready, as is her wont.
That's just
And I was all nervous because I was the new girl. And I said to her, my hands were really dry for some reason. And I said, do you have any lotion without parabens in it? And you said, why, yes, I do.
Every lotion I have is paraben free, thank you.
It is, and that was love. That was a love moment.
Yeah.
And yeah, so we probably had a ton of sangria that night. Is that when the pitcher landed on your foot?
No, that was not
that was
the
a different
first day
night?
that we met. We'd
Okay.
known each other for a couple of years by then.
But
No,
we
that was
did.
the first
No, because
few months.
I don't even know what you're talking about.
I'm
It was
talking
our
about
birthdays.
the first day that we met.
Yeah.
But
The sangria was our birthdays, and
That's
a huge, full pitcher of sangria
Right.
shattered on the floor,
and it
that
stained
stuff's red.
Jason's socks, and he was so pissed about that. I remember.
Probably really nice socks.
They were probably Theo's.
I remember they were bright white,
To begin with.
looked really nice. To be fair,
Hanes. Probably Hanes.
and it was red sangria, so And this was before you had Wine Away.
Yeah.
Wow.
Check that out, listeners.
Then we just used
Wine
throwaway.
Yeah, right. So anyway, then we got married shortly thereafter, and Amy was like this angel that came to help do things artistic because I'm a moron. And it turns out that no matter how you try to do your wedding, you still need somebody who can write things pretty or
Hot glue
Hot
corks together and
not fry
tie
their
them in
fingers
ribbon.
off.
We
Yeah.
came over and just played with so many corks.
I know. Oh yes, the wedding was very wine themed and yeah. And
Touching
Amy's
corks
this
and
beautiful
cutting
artist and
corks.
author and this, so I really took advantage of that. And then I felt like, God, this poor woman came all the way across the country, and it was like manual labor. But anyway, it seems to have all worked out because here we are.
I'm still here.
And somewhere along the way in all of this, we all kind of discovered wine in different ways. So maybe we should kind of talk
Yeah.
about how we got into wine.
So I guess I'll start that. So in 2003, I met a man who owns Wine Maniacs and Wine Maniacs on the River, and he's the head wine guy there. His name is Jeff Cox, and we'll do a segment on this show called "The Tip from Cox." And so Jeff Cox has lots of brilliant insights to be gleaned, and so Jeff and I started a record label in 2004 with our band Bascom Hill, and Jeff constantly was introduced. Before this, I was a beer drinker and had no experience with wine
You
whatsoever.
were a pretty serious beer drinker, if I recall.
You mean like Pabst Blue Ribbon and Miller
Yeah,
High Life?
I remember the
Yeah.
first night I met you, you bought a pitcher of Miller Lite to share, and I thought, this could
classy.
be the man
Classy.
forever.
Yeah. It was poor college days.
I know, and
Poor
it's
college
Wisconsin. What are you
days.
going to do?
And now, IPAs. But anyway, Jeff Cox slowly started working me into the wine realms, and he was really patient with me and would teach me a little thing here and there, and we would play at the New Year's Eve parties to kind of work our payments, and it just really started to blossom, and I feel like we've learned a lot about wine in the 10, 15 years of drinking it.
Yeah. I was always a wine lover, but I didn't know why or have any, I didn't understand quality about wine, but I would get those little mini Setterhounds in the 4-packs. Because if you get a full bottle of wine and don't finish it, it goes bad so quickly, and it was cheap or whatever, and Jason wasn't into it, so I would just get those and drink a little bottle of Setterhome when it was spaghetti night or Sopranos. When we binge watched Sopranos, I would drink a lot of those little mini wines. But then we met Jeff, and I was just kind of drinking what was ever in my glass and maybe learning some things, but it wasn't really till we took a trip to Napa with another character that I'm sure will come up again in our podcast, Jason's good friend Brian, who's very serious about wine. And he took us out to Napa, and a week of tasting and seeing these beautiful places. And I suddenly just realized, like, oh, this is how you can travel, and you can learn geography and cool climate stuff. And a lot of these wineries in that area have cool art and all these other things that I like. And like this common denominator that was wine. And so I would say that was 2007. And since then, we have been very serious, like buckled down. We drink hard, and we like to learn stuff, and we're still complete novices because there's so much to learn. Mm-hmm. So
that was definitely the first time I actually probably it clicked for me, where I was like, oh, I get this. It's like once you're standing in a vineyard and you see the soil and get to drink the drink, and it really starts to make sense. Mm-hmm. And so for any of you newbies out there, go see vineyards. It all starts there.
So I'll take over from there then. So I have not had the opportunity to go to any vineyards, but so I joined the Bascom Hill band eventually after knowing Jason a little while, and since he kind of had that in with the wine world with Jeff, he would always bring good bottles of wine on tour with us, or would recommend wine wherever we went to eat. And I remember there was a particular trip we were playing with, I think we were playing with Graham Colton up in Minneapolis, mm-hmm. At the Varsity Theater. And next door, this wonderful restaurant called the Pasta Tree, mm-hmm.
which
is an amazing place. If anyone is listening, lives up anywhere near Minneapolis, you should go.
You had me at pasta.
It's in the Dinkytown area.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. We went there. When we went up to see, there was a music festival up there. I'm talking to Amy now.
Yeah, that's not the restaurant.
Pasta Tree, yeah.
No, the Pasta Tree was over by the place with the Stonehenge.
Is Pasta Tree in Milwaukee?
It is in Milwaukee, but that's not the name of the place.
Loring Pasta Bar. That's the name of the place in Minneapolis. All right.
The Pasta Tree is
terrible
very
with
good.
names.
No.
It's very good, but that's in Milwaukee.
Not as good. Not as good as Loring Pasta Bar.
You were there
Pasta
too.
Bar is.
You had me at pasta.
Yeah. Delicious.
Yeah. So anyway, they had a deal. If you're playing at the theater next door, you get 10% off in your meal or something like that. So the band went over pre-show, carbo loaded, and Jason picked out a bottle of Montepulciano di Abruzzo. And I remember it being the first...
Abruzzo!
I remember it being something where I'm like, oh, wow. Like, kind of the same, something clicks. It's like, oh, wow, there's something really to this. Took a picture of it with my phone, and then kind of took that home, took it to a wine a retail shop and said, hey, give me this. And then they didn't have that exact one, but they got some other Montepulcianos. And that's kind of where I really dove in big time into figuring out a little bit of what's going on. But more so in the last year or so, because last year for Christmas, my lovely good lady wife, Emigh, got me home winemaking kits. Being that we live in Wisconsin, you don't have a lot of great access to grapes. For the most part, anything that survives here in these harsh winters, it doesn't produce the best of wine. But you can get homemade kits. It's essentially grape juice concentrate. So starting to make it from those kits, starting to learn of what really goes into the process of winemaking. And really your vintners, there's something unique to it to me that you don't really get in like a beer, because it's all centralized in one location. It's grown on site. For the most, you can source your grapes from other wineries or vineyards, but I really like the story of it's all grown on site, one family or one group, and then they make it as well. So it's a farming practice that's really you don't find in a lot of other products, at least in the alcohol world. So that's where it kind of there's something really neat to that for me, that this is something from seed to bottle. Someone really sees this all the way through. Mm-hmm. So that's something that really hooked me on wine.
It takes a lot of love and craftsmanship.
Mm-hmm. So in the last year I've been starting to study a little bit more, and as Ann says, I the more I study, the less I know.
Yeah.
So that's me, good lady wife.
All right. Well, I guess I would say my introduction to wine began since I can remember. I have a lot of memories of my parents and my grandparents making their own wine, homemade, not with the fancy wine kits like Scott uses, but like in a little jug, and using a punch ball balloon method, and a lot of sugar and Welch's grape juice. So it was the hillbilly wine, I guess, pretty much. Yep. And
you had me at wine.
Right.
Did it taste good?
They would drink that wine and play cards and just get...
We actually have some at home. We made some last summer.
Right.
I don't think we've even drank it yet.
No, I'm a little afraid, I guess.
That should be a podcast.
We should do a jug wine podcast.
We'll bring it over.
That would be fun, though. So I have a lot of memories of...
That would work in our Jugs and Boxes episode.
Jugs and boxes. Those are my earliest memories of the wine.
Birth.
And I remember the grown-ups would always be playing cards and drinking this homemade jug wine and having a great time. And I was like, well, I want to do that. So as I became of legal age and started to purchase bottles of wine, I started off with the cheapest stuff and kind of found out what I liked, what I didn't like. And granted, when you're younger, I think you have a totally different palate, and then you give it 10 years. So like from 25 to 35, what I like now compared to 10 years ago is very different.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think I would have liked half the things back then that I really enjoy now. I still like, I'm pretty non-discriminatory. I like sweeter whites. I like full-bodied, drier reds. It just depends. I think what I'm discovering is that there are certain grapes and certain regions that I like. Mm-hmm. And mostly regions. Because, like with a Pinot Noir, now I can say, oh, well, I like them from this location, but maybe not so much Australian or whatever. Mm-hmm. But, so basically it's just been really fun to experience my changing palate and enjoy lots of wine. But like everybody's said, I'm going to echo the sentiment that the more you learn, the more you realize you don't have a freaking clue about.
It's like Biggie said, "Mo money, mo problems."
Yeah,
So
I was
true.
just thinking about that.
Mm-hmm.
The really poignant point you bring up. Mm-hmm. So that covers the wine piece. But should we have any remarks on Star Wars? I mean, that's probably
Oh my
like our age. We all grew up with it. I had the Leia bubble bath where the lid was like, you turn her head around
really?
like Poltergeist.
Like Mr. Bubbles? Is that what you
Yeah.
mean? Okay.
But mine was Leia. My brother had Yoda, and they sat next to each other on the side of the tub. And I had, the Star Wars sheets. And I don't even know if I really understood the story. I was just obsessed with Leia.
I was obsessed with Han Solo.
Well,
I was like, who cares about the story? Show me the space cowboy.
Space cowboy.
Some people call me a space cowboy.
and then, I mean, Jason, I don't even know where we start. Like, you're just insane.
Yeah, I was in the womb during May 19th, 1977, and my parents went, and then I came out, and then I think it was already in me. The Star Wars was in me.
I could feel it.
You absorbed it in vitro?
And I remember getting a video cassette of, I remember this vividly. It's one of my very first memories. Was I was at my grandma and grandpa's house, and a commercial for Empire Strikes Back coming out on video cassette, VHS, and I was like, yes! Can't wait to see that! And I think I saw it in the theater, but I was really excited that it was coming out on VHS. And then for Christmas, I got a copy of it, and that didn't stop playing. It still today remains my favorite movie, The Empire Strikes Back.
Oh, yeah. I've never seen you nap so hard.
Yeah, I've watched them so many times now that usually they come on and I'm instantly narcoleptic.
There's a good number of times I've come over to your house and it's just on in the basement down here. Like you'll be cleaning or something. Like, hey, we're going to have band practice in an hour and I get there a little early. It's just on.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a permanent part of our life.
It's the soundtrack background noise.
Like, yeah, we walk down the aisle too. I mean, we're pretty.
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty nerdy.
You can touch on that a little more later. But.
Yeah. Do you have any Star Wars thoughts you want to share?
So for me, being that I'm a little younger than...
Millennial.
Yeah, we already covered that. Thanks, but I'm glad you're just driving it home there.
Well, I'm just, I want to make sure everyone understands that I'm younger than...
I think they get it. I think they...
It's a different demo.
You.
It's a different demo. But I remember vividly, probably like my 10th birthday or something. Whenever it was our birthdays and our families, parents would say, okay, you can pick what to watch, like a movie to watch. It was always A New Hope. It's like, so that's what I put on, because my favorite scene is, that's great, kid, don't get cocky. That, that battle scene with the half dozen TIE fighters, which, is really
the coolest scene in that movie.
But it's a pretty, they're trying to let them, is there a tracker on there when they let them go? No, there's not, right?
There is when they let
escape,
them go.
When they escape the Death Star the
but
first
that's
time?
That's pre them in the Death Star, I think.
No, that's when they leave. Okay, either way.
We can clarify it on
we'll have our intern Seth look into this. I guess I haven't seen it enough in it lately, but
It doesn't play in the background at our house.
no.
You need a new DVD player.
Oh no, I got the
VHS.
unedited, untweaked original versions on DVD.
Oh,
Congratulations.
good.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Don't get me started.
Yeah. So that's where Star Wars with me, and then it's just always been. Every now and then you got to revisit it. So.
Okay, so Wine Wars is kind of a misnomer. It's not like fighting it out over wine or anything. It's really, it truly is, because we're going to be quoting Star Wars a lot, and we like wine.
And learning wine to me is a battle.
It's true.
That was deep. So that kind of brings us to what our goals and kind of vision and why we're doing this podcast. We're calling this first episode episode 4, A New Drop.
I think it's just episode IV.
Oh, that's what it is. IV.
That's
right.
a pun with the drop.
Yeah.
Nice. But we could just drink and not do a podcast, but we decided to drink and do a podcast. So
Why
let's
not?
talk about why we decided to do that.
For me, I thought it was a good idea to do a podcast because it would hone our strategy. Like if we did a episode on Chardonnay, for example, we'd really learn something if each of us brought something to the table, and we really focused on a couple bottles of Chardonnay. We're gonna walk away with it with a much deeper knowledge than if we just just drank.
And like Amy was saying, if we get something from Australia, Burgundy, something from California, we learn more what our palate likes and dislikes are. Because just on your own, you can't necessarily go through all that wine on your own. But if you get together with a handful of friends, get a couple bottles of wine, take notes, write something down. Oh, I like this. I don't like this. Jason hates Syrah.
Oh, don't. Yeah. We'll probably never do a Syrah episode unless he's like sick.
I think it would be fun to do an episode where we find a Syrah that he likes.
Actually found one, and we'll bring it up when we do that one.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
So, but
You want to watch a grown man have a tantrum.
so that's one big thing for me, is to hone in my palate and get better at tasting wine, not just drinking it, and to be able
You're pretty good at that.
to be able to explain to coworkers who buy Barefoot wine or Apothic Red why that is not a good use of your money, but without sounding like an ass.
But for them, it might be at their stage
they
of
like
the
it.
wine journey.
True, but see, that's where the wine typically gets a little pomposity, built into it. It's like, for $10 you can find a better Sauvignon Blanc than Barefoot.
Yeah.
So, and
hopefully we can help
right,
listeners figure out what the values are out there.
right. So hopefully, the listeners will grow with us as we grow into somewhat sophisticated wine drinkers.
Basically, yeah. And sophisticated doesn't need to equate with being pompous or arrogant. It just means developing a more complex way to experience the wine, and it's not. There's nothing wrong with it, it's no different than somebody who started off drinking PBR and now they are crazy for IPAs. It's because they tried a lot of microbrews and now they know what they like.
Yeah.
Yep.
You develop the palate.
It's funny that it has sort of a snotty attitude or reputation, because when we've been able to meet the people who grow the wines or create the wine, they don't have. I've never met anyone that has that attitude. They're farmers and they're people who just love their craft and just are sort of curious about what grapes can do, and they drink it just with lunch or because it makes them happy, and it's not this big to-do.
Yeah, I think it's because to describe a liquid using the terms that are often used with wines, like, I get hints of, dark fruit and toasted nuts and cinnamon and spices and all this stuff. And it's like, okay, you're giving me way too much information. Is this worth my $10, $15, $20 or not? Am I going to enjoy this? So that's where it's tough with wine. You're never going to get the same bottle that tastes the same twice, the way that you would with Pabst or even craft breweries. It's a crapshoot every time. Yep. So there's always a little kind of like a trust issue with, I'm buying this bottle, I don't know if it's good. The last time I got it was good. This bottle is better than last time. So that's where I think where a little unease comes with wine as averse to beer.
Yeah.
And I think that one of the things that we can do is we can help newbies explain to them why that is, and we can explain to them strategies on buying good bottles of wine. And for me, this podcast is about experiencing wine and the world, and being able to show novices to the wine world. Like we can interview winemakers that we meet, and we can visit vineyards and post it online and show the experience, so that way, and when we're tasting it, we can give good recommendations. And the other thing that I think with this is, the thing to remember is, every time you put the glass to your face is an opportunity to stop and literally smell the roses and take a moment. It's kind of like,
Smell the rosés.
Can we TM that right now?
TM. So like, it's an opportunity. It's like meditation or yoga. It's an opportunity to stop and actually smell something and think about what happened, where it came from, and then have gratitude that we can even do that. That's a
because there's never been a better time to be a wine drinker than the
right
whole
now.
History of known mankind. You can get stuff from any country into the U.S., at least, especially even in the U.S., where we can get access to pretty much anything. It's never been a better time to be a wine drinker. So maybe never been a more confusing time because of that.
Yeah. And so that's what we're bringing to the table, which you heard. None of us have any certifications or anything. We have kind of a genuine interest and a definite inability really to even be snotty about it. We just want to try this stuff and talk about it and learn as we go, and hopefully that matches where you're at. I mean, when we say we're starting from scratch. It's really true. So hopefully that'll make it easy for you to kind of play along. But at the same time, we'll be inviting in experts and visiting places and hopefully just showing you a different side of all of this.
Right.
I think ultimately we just want to demystify the experience and bring you guys along for the journey, because we're a few steps in, but not like, oh, I got this, I'm a master. Not like that at all. It's just it's a good place to
even within us,
invite
there's
other people in.
all these varying levels. You guys have been able to go to Europe and to California and go to these wine trips.
You've been able to memorize the wine Bible.
Yeah, the front to back. All 497 pages.
But we have access to the masters. So
Right.
we have things like Jeff Cox to give us the tip.
Master Cox.
Well, maybe this would be a good moment to get a tip from Cox.
Sure.
Yeah.
And maybe our first tip from Cox, we'll have him explain to us how to taste.
Here comes the tip from Cox. He'll pour knowledge down your throat. Now let's all open wide, because here comes the tip from Cox.
To make it really simple, there are a couple of very basic rules you have to follow. Rule number 1 is always ignore the first taste, because that first taste of wine is going to bounce off of whatever it is you had in your mouth last, and we're not even going to go there. The second taste should give you a true taste, and the third you're going to use as a confirmation of the second. So too many aspiring wine drinkers get that first taste of wine. It doesn't work because it's bouncing off the juicy fruit that you just spit out, or a wine that was maybe sweeter than the next one you're tasting, and it's nothing good comes of this. So the rule is always ignore the first taste. The second taste should be a true taste. Third, use that as a confirmation of the second.
That was the tip from Cox.
All right, team, you just got your first tip from Cox. How'd you like it?
I like that he didn't force it upon me.
He was really gentle.
Soft spoken.
It was big and good,
Not even
but not.
subtle.
But not. I mean, it was a big tip, but it was not.
There's a lot to it. A little understated.
I feel like I'm going to appreciate it more the next time.
But it was good for our first time.
It was good. So again, that was Jeff Cox. He's the head wine guy at Wine Maniacs. It's a awesome little bistro in Oconomowoc, and then there's also a version on the river in Milwaukee. So if you're ever out there, ask for Jeff Cox. Ask if he'll give you just some tips, and definitely check that out. But as far as his point on how take your first sip and sort of discard it, I'm so glad he said that, because I always feel like I've got nothing on that anyway. So it made me feel better.
I think the general thing is that you swirl it and put it in your nose and smell it and taste it right away, and it does seem like that's a great tip to just take your first step, get it out of the way, and it's almost like rinsing your glass.
Just lose your wine virginity
That's
already.
right. Yeah. Just get in there and get it done.
You got to go head
Because
first.
it's only going to get better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so for our last segment, we wanted to just talk about a couple of wines that stand out in our memory as the ones that got us into it. It's kind of a reflective moment. And we each picked out a bottle that means a little something to us and thought we'd just share that with you. And then in future episodes, you can expect that we'll probably focus more like on a grape or a region or particular winemaker. We'll see how it all goes. So this isn't exactly typical, but we thought we'd just tell you what we like and why.
Give us some background on us as people and our story.
Who we are.
Yeah.
And then we want to hear from you and et cetera and stuff. And Amy, do you want to talk about your wine?
I would love to talk about my wine. So,
What's your story, Morning Glory?
well, the story behind this is when Scott and I decided to get married, we had originally planned the big traditional thing. And I decided I'm not a very traditional person, so I suggested that we elope, and he was down with it. And since I was from Portland, Oregon, most recently, since I bounced all over the place, I said we should elope there. So we did.
True story.
Oh, I know. I got the postcard.
And yeah, that's how we notified everybody, was by postcard. So we got married at this adorable little bed and breakfast.
The Lion and the Rose.
Right, 100-year-old Victorian mansion. And that's been featured on, oh God, I can't remember what TV show now.
I don't know.
Once Upon a Time. No, it's the other one, the fairy tale one. Grimm. It's been on Grimm.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Anyway, so we got married, and then it was like 5:36 and dinner time. So we found this restaurant that looked really great. Tried to get in, and one, it was super crowded for a Thursday, which seemed ridiculous. And two, the walls were all glass, and it was so noisy, and I was just like,
They had like Katy Perry Katy Perry wasn't
it was
a
like
thing back then.
and there's this shit show, and I was like, I don't care how good the food is, this is not what I want for our wedding night.
Why does a restaurant
meal.
think that music is good?
Like, if it was a club, totally different situation, but I'm there to enjoy a dining experience, and that was not the place. So thanks to Yelp, we found this lovely restaurant,
Restaurante
called-
Roma.
Ristorante Roma, on 622 Southwest 12th Avenue in Portland, Oregon.
Shout out.
Oh, it's great.
Delicious. Oh my gosh. It's the kind of place, I think it's owned by a family from Italy, because they all had Italian accents. They were speaking Italian in the kitchen. Our waitress.
She almost went home with them.
Oh, they told us to a manja.
I know, and I was like, sure.
But this restaurant was like the complete 180.
Oh, it was
Of the-
quiet. It was beautiful lighting, red linen tablecloths.
Max 32 people.
Probably. It was just, they basically set up like 2 seatings a night, or walk-ins if they had space. And
Luckily they did.
they did. And it wasn't crowded. The food was incredible. Oh my gosh. But and I can't remember how we settled on this wine. I think we might have. I think what happened was we said, "Here's what we want to have for dinner. What do you recommend?" And because they're from Italy and they know their shit when it comes to wine, they recommended this Barbera d'Alba by Boroli, and this is a wine.
So this wine, it's called Quatro Fratelli.
Which means 4 brothers.
And of course, the Fratelli brothers.
Oregon. It's
From-
wet, ain't it? Drink it.
From, Goonies.
Goonies.
Uh-huh.
So obviously it was awesome without even tasting it. But then we tasted it and we were like, this is the best thing we ever did.
So we,
Elope out here and have this wine.
When you
with
guys
this
got
meal.
back from getting married, your top story was about the wine you drank that night.
yeah. Well, we snuck the bottle out and took it home with us, flew it home,
Yep.
and it's up on our shelf, you know?
Yep.
What vintage was it? Do you know?
It was a 2009
9.
or
Because we got married in 11.
Ooh, I should have wrote that down.
And
But yeah,
typically
probably a
they're
9.
about 2 years old because it's 2015. We're drinking in 2013.
And then so a friend of ours, Dave Basaraba, who played keys with us for a little while, he got married a little over a year ago.
At the Edgefield McMenamins in Troutdale.
Yeah.
Outside Portland, Oregon.
So we flew out a day or two early, and we went back to Restaurante Roma and got another same bottle, took it home.
So
It's up on the shelf.
incredible.
You guys are so cute. Just stop.
And the whole dining experience was just as good. Like, I really recommend that you go out to this beautiful city and you have to have a meal there.
It stood up to the memory, huh?
Oh, yeah.
The time before.
It's
great.
And like I said, it's a small family run. You walk in, it's not even as big as your basement.
No, it's about as big as our basement.
That's
No
not
one
nice
can see the basement, so I'm not sure
True.
it's helping.
Okay, you're right. Either way, it was
Are we on TV?
incredible.
In your dreams.
So
Okay.
tell us about the wine. Like, what does it taste like?
Oh, well,
See, this was a good lesson. Wine
I
is
was
about
so
the
excited
experience.
about
It's
talking
the
about it. I forgot
experience.
to.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been drinking it all night, but
Barbera d'Alba is Barbera, the grape, from the city of Alba in Italy.
Which
True
is in
story.
a
The
northern
Piedmont
area
region.
near Milan, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep, northwest of Milan, Piedmont region. Piemonte.
Yep.
So
yeah.
I think it's that kind of rockier soil up near closer to the mountains that maybe gives it a little bit more of that earthier taste. It's got kind of a liveliness to it without being as bright as a Beaujolais.
Yeah, there's definitely like a cinnamony.
It's a very sensuous wine. I think
Right.
that's why I liked it so much for a wedding night wine.
It's not a dessert wine. Oh.
No, not by any means.
But you're always kind of drawn to those kinds of wines.
And it's not jammy, but yeah, it just really treats your mouth nice when you swirl it around.
gets all up in there. Mm-hmm. I know what you mean.
It's kind of a typical Italian wine where it's very well balanced and great
Right.
with food.
It's not too alcoholic. It's not a jam bomb. It's just a perfect balance. And it's just got... I can't even...
Well, we're
There you go.
for sure going to do a Piedmont episode because
That would be fun.
there's a lot to talk about there.
Yeah, we can talk more about Barbera in that episode, but it's not a super well-known grape. It's really mainly grown in Italy. It's a little bit outside of it, but for the most part, it's just that Piedmont region. I think it's the third most popular grape in Italy, behind Sangiovese and Montepulciano. So it's kind of it's an up and comer a little bit. So
Well, and the one thing that I think made that meal so memorable is that with this particular wine, it's got a very full-bodied flavor, but then it's got, it just kind of makes your mouth water for a while afterwards, which, is
Makes you
great
wanna
for
eat.
eating. Yeah, so big fan. Whether you're drinking alone or with food.
What'd you
All right.
bring, Scott?
So that jumps to me. So I brought a Route 1 Cabernet Sauvignon, 2012. So Route 1 is from Chile, the Colchagua Valley. Yeah, I'll get someone who got a better grade in Spanish to pronounce that. I think it's Colchagua.
No, they don't pronounce the G. It's like a hua. So, Kohawa?
I think we should not even try.
Let's get our interns.
But Amy's right.
Yeah, Seth.
Hey, Seth, can you figure out what the hell that is?
Thanks, buddy.
So the reason I brought this, kind of threefold. This Route 1 is really, when I talk about like my wine drinking growth, Route 1. So my brother got married back in 2006 or 7. I don't know because I'm a terrible brother.
2008.
2008. So he and his wife got married in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Erica, his wife, she went to school up there, so they got married at the zoo there, the Como Zoo. And then afterwards, we went out for dinner, and then went back to the hotel. And then afterwards, it was
I thought they got married at a Japanese garden.
yeah at the zoo. There's a Japanese garden at the zoo.
Okay, and FYI, you didn't say your brother's name, but you said your sister.
Oh, sorry, Kevin is my brother's name.
Oh, now I know.
Yeah, got married, went out, had dinner. They had a really small wedding, not as small as ours, so we had to one-up them.
One down them.
So afterwards, back at the hotel lobby bar, it was myself, my dad, Erica's father, Don. Afterwards, just relaxing and having wine. And on the menu, they had Route 1. And I was just like, oh, wow, this is a really good wine. And I took note of it. Took that knowledge back to Wisconsin, and Route 1 is actually a wine that you can find in grocery stores for the most part. So like our local Cops or like a Piggly Wiggly or anything like that, they'll have that. Usually $10 to $13 depending on the year. But it's Cabernet Sauvignon. So it's a when we poured this one, it was kind of like a stew scent to it. Pretty
Like stewed
earthy,
fruit.
stewed fruit. Yeah. So it's got a little complexity to it, not overly complex. It's a really good wine, I think, for starters to get into.
It smells great.
yeah.
It's got an incredible nose on it.
So that's kind of one of the wines that got me started up before that Montepulciano that I was talking about earlier with you up in Minneapolis. So I guess Minneapolis was really a keystone.
Really? Yeah. We need to go
Nice.
drink there.
So I actually have a collection. So I have an 06, 7, 8, 9, 10, 112 bottle of Cabernet Sauvignon up on our shelves.
That's like
don't
an
have an
extreme
11?
vertical.
I do not have an 11, so if any listeners happen to have an empty 2011 Cabernet
we
Sauvignon,
You gotta drink it.
Or full.
or full, yeah. Okay.
Preferably full.
So if anyone's got the hookup, send me a tweet at Wine Wars Podcast, and we'll fix my collection. And I got to make sure to
And
get.
they all have to be Cabernet Sauvignons?
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, Route One actually they make a good number of others. They have a Carmenere, which is good. They started to make a Pinot Noir. I haven't had that one yet. I haven't found that. But they also make a Sauvignon Blanc, which is really good.
It's really good. All this wine we've been drinking, and Route One consistently stands up as like you can always find it. It's really a good price.
Very safe.
This is already like the tip of the podcast is when given $10 to $13 to spend at the grocery store, Route One is a solid choice.
So like when I was talking earlier about my coworkers buying barefoot Sauvignon Blanc, I'm like, do a Route One. It's $1 or $2 more, and it's going to be twice as good.
Yeah.
So, so that kind of leads into you guys, because Route One also has a role in your lives as well.
And I feel like I have to say, all of the podcasts are not going to be about like obnoxious married stuff.
It ends here.
Because honestly, it annoys me.
Yeah. We're already.
I'm in the
annoys all
same
of us.
boat. It's just like, how did this become talking about weddings and
Yeah,
Ew.
but
Because
stuff?
wine is it's something you drink to celebrate
yeah.
events.
Because both of our stories are also about the wedding, but I swear the future is
it's
like...
not all going to be like this. In
No.
fact, very little, if any.
It'll
Yeah.
be a lot more Star Wars.
Yeah.
Yes. But because we're talking about experiences, I had a really close friend from Anchorage, Alaska, who is a graphic designer that offered, well, I asked and she agreed, to design our wedding invitations. And I was really obsessed with, obviously, wine, but also the idea of a wedding being, and we waited 10 years to get married. So we put a lot of thought into, what it all meant. But one of the things I was really into was the idea of roots, growing roots and getting committed to one thing in one place and one life and all that. And so I really liked the idea of having a vine and its roots. And so if you see the Route One label, it's a really long vertical root. And so we kind of took that concept but made it different, obviously.
So you couldn't get sued.
Right. Well, when I
made it
called
your
her, I
own.
was trying to explain my whole idea, and then I finally was like, "Do you know the Route One label?" And she's like, "It's sitting on my counter right now." Well, that's the idea of what I'm going for, and so we have, so that's what we did, and the save the date was like the start of the little root and the little bud on the plant, and then the invitation was the full blown vine, which actually now I look at it, it's a little it almost looks a little desolate. Like a vine is kind of without its grapes on it, it's a little.
Well, it's
almost like
because
a-
It's a little bleak.
it's
It
the start
is.
of your marriage. You haven't yet blossomed.
Yeah,
But to
you're
me,
not
it's-
an old
to me, it's
established
beautiful, but-
vineyard.
It's probably a little unusual, but.
I loved
The
it.
beginning. I love it still.
Aw.
And we actually happened.
We saved our box. With
Yeah, it's in our basement still.
Oh, really?
Your box, yeah.
the gift box that the wine came in.
Yeah, so we had everyone who helped us with the wedding gave them a, personalized gift box full of wine.
And so we the other two wines we're going to talk about here are two wines that we gave in the gift box. So to some of the people we gave the wine that I'm going to have, which is a Renwood Old Vine Zin, and then as a joke we put in a bottle of $2 Chuck.
Also, because we couldn't afford to put 2 great bottles of wine in every box.
Right. And now that is a great bottle of wine, but it's a good bottle of wine.
Yeah, it's good.
And then for the the best man and best lady, and we put a bottle of Renwood and that wine that Anne's going to talk about, which is a Scott Harvey wine. And so I'll get into
Go ahead.
I'll get into mine. This is a 2011 Renwood Old Vine Zin, and we had alluded to my friend Brian, who he's the wine nerd of my friends, and he's a sommelier, and he took us to Napa in 2007, and he had told us at the time, he's like, if you really want to study wine, just pick a grape and just drink a grape for a year. And I think at that time we had just got super deep into Zinfandel, and we had this Renwood Old Vine Zin, and we had this Scott Harvey Old Vine Zin, and we were just like super into Zin for almost a year straight.
Yeah.
And luckily that year we went to a wine tasting that was a blind tasting at one of Jeff Cox's wine events, and I was smelling it. I was like, Zin, Zin, Zin. It's Zin. This is Zin. This is a Zin party. And I won.
Yeah, you did.
Oh,
my! Up against serious wine drinkers,
Yeah.
but we had been so deep
into
in
Zin.
So that is a really good tip for a way to learn. Just do like California Zin or California Cab or Italian Sangiovese, and just drink all the different labels you can until you just can't not recognize it.
See, I find that kind of interesting that Zin was like what you dove into first, because it's not a super well-known grape.
No, and it's pretty big. Like it's a pretty big red grape.
Yep.
So when you think of Zin, I usually think of like big jammy fruit. And this one in particular is I felt like a real dirty blackberries. Can you guys hear Theo snoring down here?
Like
Snoring.
earthy, like still have mud on them, kind of.
Yeah, and like kind of hints of cocoa. And what I thought was interesting about this wine was at the time I think we got into it, Scott Harvey was the winemaker at Renwood. And Scott Harvey became famous for, he put Folie à Deux, the Menage a Trois, he put Folie à Deux on the map because he, got them going and started making great wine. And then he sold it or whatever, and then went to Renwood for a little bit, and then started the Scott Harvey winery. So what we're drinking is kind of the lineage of Scott Harvey wine. And anyway, what surprised me about this Renwood was when I went on the website, it was pretty decorated wine already. It won 91 points by Wine Enthusiast, and it was the winner of the gold at the 2015 Chronicle tasting. So, I was surprised. It was like, wow. And when I tasted it, I was like, this is a solid wine.
This actually tasted better than I even remembered.
The
Yeah,
ones
we
we
haven't had
had.
a Renwood in a while, frankly, and it was good.
How much was it?
$14.99 at Costco. Have you heard of this Costco winery?
Oh, I do know of this
wine
place
store?
of which you speak.
I was surprised to see it there in the first place, so I was like, hey.
Yeah.
And Costco actually does have a handful of pretty good stuff.
Well,
Yeah.
and it's nice because they rotate things. Because I don't think that they had Renwood there 5 years ago.
No, I've
No.
never seen it there. So
And for my job, I'm in Costco's across the country, and it's really interesting to see what's in Costco's because it's always every Costco's got different wines. You go to Naperville, Illinois, and it's different than Dallas, Texas.
And the one here has a really educated wine guy helping me. Is that true of other places?
Some of them do, and some of them don't. And it might be like you happen to be there on Saturday
The
when
day he's
the
there.
wine guy's
yeah.
there or whatever.
He's great here in Madison.
do you know his name?
I should, but I don't.
Okay.
The nice Costco wine guy. Tell him I sent you.
Hey, you the guy that Ann
nice-
was talking about?
Yeah.
You the wine guy.
So this Scott Harvey is the 2013 Zin, and like we said, this was the second bottle we included for the VIPs of the wedding, and that included Scott and Emigh.
We have that up on our wall as well. We actually, we have a wall that all has to do with like wedding wines. So it's like ours, my brother Kevin and Erica's. They're the wine they served.
Well, it's not
Yours.
so much
That's
wedding
nice.
wines as it is like friends
Family,
and family.
yeah, right.
Yeah, that's
So
nice.
each bottle has a story behind it.
Mhm.
It's kind of sweet. And then Scott pop quizzes me
Yeah.
every once in a while, and I'm like,
I don't know. I was drinking wine.
we had that with your parents before a show? And he's like, no, we had that at Anna Jason's wedding. Oh, yeah, I knew that.
Killed brain cells. Ugh.
Yeah.
So this 2011 is 2013. Scott Harvey's in. It's Amador County.
It's 2011.
Is it?
Yeah.
God, I'm getting old. 2011.
I'm 31.
I know you are, Scott. We're all happy for you.
Yes, we. Millennial.
So Amador County is a little north of the Napa-Sonoma area, and it's a high elevation, so it's a pretty cool area. And that typically,
It's a good Zin growing area.
yeah,
I think that Amador County is kind of like really known for
that's their thing.
primo Zin.
But I normally think of Zin after our straight year of drinking it as sort of bigger and jammier and a little bit more like the Renwood. And this one is not. This particular one is tart, and I think that is a product of a cooler climate, but it's tart and raspberry, and I almost don't even know if I would have called it a Zin, actually.
It's much lighter than his other older
And light.
Yeah.
Yeah, and at $18.99, it's, it's getting up there. I probably, if I had a choice, I probably would drink the Renwood just because it's cheaper and it's a lot of fun, but there's a lot of memories here, and it's fun to keep track of what Scott Harvey is up to, and it definitely has its merits. So, so I think that those are the 4 bottles that we wanted to share with you guys as part of, the experience of why we're into all this.
Yeah,
But,
kind of foundational wines,
yeah,
so to speak.
Yeah,
And we promise it will not be all about love and weddings.
Yeah.
It's going to be like about
probably a lot of fighting.
A lot of
Yeah.
I mean, it is a war.
Right.
It's a wine war.
Yeah,
and
so
like
expect more of that.
crops being destroyed and invasive species and
End
Yeah.
times, yeah.
and just shitty wine because that's out there. That's a thing.
So I really think we're inviting people back for all of that.
Yeah.
Pretty please.
Now that I think about this, though, it is kind of a theme in our life here. Is like we had a Star Wars and wine themed wedding, and now we have a Star Wars and wine themed podcast. That is silly.
That's funny. I actually hadn't thought of that
I
either.
hadn't thought of that.
Well,
I think about it
in
all
our
the time.
basement covered in wine and Star Wars.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's
Wow.
Huh.
That's rather transparent.
Yeah. We were. Is that shallow?
You guys have a
Yes.
problem.
not a lot
It's
of not a
not
lot of
deep.
depth.
There's nothing
Yeah.
wrong with knowing what you like.
Yeah.
So that concludes the very first episode of Wine Wars. I hope you guys had some fun.
I had fun.
I had fun.
You guys want to do this again next
It
week?
was sort of more rhetorical to the audience, but I'm
Oh.
glad. I'm glad.
Well,
I'm
we
glad
hope
to
y'all
hear.
had fun.
Glad to hear you did too.
Y'all come back now.
So, like us on Facebook or follow us on Twitter. We're at Wine Wars Podcast, and you can also visit our website at Wine Wars Podcast, and we'll have up, all the wines that we had today, and it's also where you can figure out where to correct anything we said incorrectly, which I assume will happen every single time.
Yeah.
And we're cool with that. Like, just try to be nice, and or just drop us a line and tell us what you're interested in or where we should go with this. And
Yeah.
we're
If
interested.
you have suggestions, we'd love
Oh
to
yeah,
hear.
suggestions for shows.
If there's something you specifically want to learn,
We probably do too.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. So we're gonna do that. But until next time, remember,
It's just grape juice.